I would also like to inform delegates that the Space and Global Health Network meeting will be held from 4 to 6 p.m. in room M2 in hybrid mode. Delegates are reminded that the full schedule of meeting is available on the session's website. Are there any questions or comments on this proposed schedule? I see none. Distinguished delegates, I would now like to continue our consideration of item 5 of our agenda, general exchange of views. I note that shortly before concluding our meeting this morning, we received the following requests for the right of reply by the Republic of Korea, by Austria, and by Ukraine. As per rules of procedures and practices of the committee, the right of reply is exercised at the end of the agenda item at the current meeting. I also note that the morning meeting was concluded in view of time because of those requests were exercised. With understanding of delegations, I would suggest that we turn to the list of speakers under agenda item 5, and those requests are exercised at the end of the agenda item 5 at this afternoon's meeting. Thank you for cooperation. Furthermore, let me also take this opportunity as the chair and reiterate that this committee has a dense agenda before it to discuss substantive items pertaining to international cooperation in the peaceful uses of outer space. As the chair and on behalf of the Bureau, I would therefore like to ask delegations for cooperation so that we can advance on the substantive agenda items before us. Let me now turn to the list of speakers. The first speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of Saudi Arabia. Please, you have the floor.
Bismillah. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate, Chair, at the outset, the Kingdom wishes to convey its sincerest congratulations to you, Dr. Sadki, upon your election to the chairmanship of the 67th session of COPUOS. Equally, we express our appreciation to the director of UNOSA, Ms. Artihola Maini, and her team for their efforts exerted in preparation for the work of the COPUOS. In turn, the Kingdom remains committed to extending its full support for the advancement of the peaceful uses of outer space so as to ensure that space remains open for all states and countries and for the peaceful uses and sustainable uses of outer space. Ladies and gentlemen, space is an enabling factor of sustainable development on Earth. It includes applications that benefit various fields on Earth, telecommunications, observations of Earth remotely, thus preserving development and environment, the use of space navigation systems, which we use in our movement in a manner that is safe and precise. So there is no way for us to imagine our life without space. Therefore, the Kingdom has realized the importance of space decades ago. We have invested in capacity building and in making advancement in communications, telecommunications through satellite, Earth observation, and they have proven that space is indispensable in our endeavors to attain developmental goals. The Kingdom invests in its capacities in the development of space, starting with our most precious resource, that is the Saudi citizen. In addition to other enabling factors, of course, our objective is to ensure that space is part and parcel of our development and growth through the development of our skills, advanced education, among others. The Kingdom draws a benefit from those investments in building up a better future for the benefit of its citizen and humanity alike. Space sector in the Kingdom is experiencing major advances, starting with the adoption of a governance framework. The Supreme Space Council supervises this framework. The Saudi Space Space Agency undertakes the implementation of advanced space programs, whereas the Communications, Space and Technology Commission is the regulatory arm of the system. Therefore, we aim for this sector to become a main sector in our endeavors to attain our vision and to advance this vital sector, always in line with international law and other international relevant treaties. Such developments have led to several achievements within a very short period of time. We adopted the space sector governance framework, unmanned missions, and the implementation of training programs, awareness-raising programs for professionals, experts, and ambitious youth covering all age groups. In addition, entrepreneurial activities in the kingdom is witnessing a great prosperity. Therefore, we welcome the arrival of entrepreneurs from all around the world to further build this sector. Later on during this session, we will be highlighting other main achievements in the Saudi space sector. Thank you.
The distinguished representative of Saudi Arabia for his statement. The next speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of Slovenia. Please, you have the floor.
I thank you, Mr. Chairperson, and good afternoon to everyone. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. In addition to what has been said on behalf of the EU, I would like to make several remarks in my national capacity. Mr. Chairperson, at the outset, I would like to congratulate you on your election and express our support for your leadership. We very much appreciate the excellent work of UNOSA under the leadership of the Director for the preparation of this session as well. Today, I'm pleased to highlight two significant milestones that underscore Slovenia's commitment to the peaceful and cooperative exploration of outer space. Yesterday, on 18 June, after several years of dedication and commitment to the development of the space sector, Slovenia and European Space Agency signed the accession agreement, presenting a basis for Slovenia's full membership in 2025. This membership opens doors to enhanced collaborative opportunities, allowing us to participate in groundbreaking projects and missions that push the boundaries of our understanding of the universe. We are very proud of this milestone, reaffirming our dedication to safe, sustainable, and peaceful space activities. Further, in April of this year, Slovenia has become a signatory of the Artemis Accords outlining best practices for sustainable space exploration. By joining this important international framework, we affirm our dedication to the principles of responsible and transparent space exploration. The Artemis Accords represent a shared vision for a peaceful and cooperative future in space, guided by norms and best practices that ensure safety, sustainability, and mutual respect among spacefaring nations. International cooperation and multilateral approach are crucial for the global development of the space sector and for ensuring safe and secure activities in space and on Earth. COPUOS, with its subcommittees, plays a critical role in developing international norms, guidelines, and principles governing outer space activities. We are looking forward to discussing key issues, including space traffic management, long-term sustainability of outer space, and space resources. With this in mind, my delegation would like to welcome the German proposal for a study group on perspectives on space traffic management. As the topic of space resources is one of Slovenia's priorities, I would like to congratulate Luxembourg and Belgium for the successful organization of the Space Resources Expert Meeting. We would also like to commend the Portuguese Space Agency for its great organization of the management and sustainability of outer space activities conference and the successful adoption of the Lisbon Declaration on outer space. In conclusion, Slovenia is committed to actively promoting the preservation of a safe, secure, and sustainable space environment. We look forward to fruitful and constructive exchanges this week and to successful adoption of the reports. I thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
I would like to thank the distinguished representative of Slovenia, and I also thank you for keeping the time. Now I move to our next speaker on the list, and we have the distinguished representative of UAE. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Dear Mr. Chair, Excellencies, and distinguished delegates, the United Arab Emirates welcomes the 67th session of the committee and believes that the valuable outcomes of our discussions will contribute into advancing the priorities of promoting international cooperation, ensuring the peaceful use of outer space, and fostering sustainable development in space activities. At the outset, we would like to extend our heartfelt congratulations to Ms. Arti Khoulameni on her appointment as the new Director of the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs. We also take this opportunity to express our deep appreciation to Mr. Imran Sharaf for his contributions and leadership as Chair of COPUOS over the last 2 years. We look forward to the continuation of the cooperation and collaborative work. We extend our appreciation to the Secretariat and all Member States at COPUOS for their support and engagement during the UAE's task of chairing the committee. Furthermore, we congratulate the newly elected Chair, Dr. Sharif Sidqi from the Arabic Republic of Egypt, the Vice Chair, Mr. Juan Francisco Facchetti Fernandez from the Republic of Paraguay, and the second Vice Chair, Mr. Hassan Abbas from the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. On this occasion, we would like to assure our commitment to supporting the work of the committee under your leadership. The UAE has made notable milestones in the space program that underscore our commitment towards global space community and the shared priorities in science and technology, in line with our efforts to advance the international science and technology priorities and global efforts to sustainable space exploration. We continue to work with our partners globally in our upcoming missions, such as the Emirates mission to the asteroid belt, the Artemis Lunar Gateway Airlock, and Rashid Lunar Rover 2. From a policy perspective, we follow a structured and comprehensive approach. Our development framework includes regulation for space activities, the National Space Strategy 2030, and the Space, Science, and Technology Policy, which guides our efforts to align with international law while driving innovation and sustainability in the space sector. Esteemed guests, last year, the UAE welcomed almost 86,000 participants at COP28. Space was added as a new pillar to the thematic themes of COP. A notable outcome was that was achieved by the support of member states was the Space Agency's Leaders Summit, resulting in a space pledge for enhancing space-based climate initiatives. This year, we welcome all member states to advance the dialogue and collaboration among global government officials, space industry leaders, policymakers, and experts from public and private sectors in the upcoming Abu Dhabi Space Debate, which will be held on the 10th and 11th of December. I wish you all the best. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, distinguished representative of UAE, and thank you also for keeping the time of the statement. Now I move to the next speaker on the list, the distinguished representative of India. Please, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, India congratulates you on being elected as the chair of the 67th session of the COPUOS and is committed to provide our full support. Mr. Chair and distinguished delegates, Indian space program was initiated in early 60s with the overarching goal of utilizing modern technology for the betterment of human life. It is now 60 years since the first rocket rode into the skies from the Indian soil on 21st November 1963, heralding the entry of India into the club of spacefaring nations. Since then, India has come a long way, steadily improving in the technological front. India attaches great importance towards the activities and outcome of UN COPUOS work over the years, and we ensure our full commitment towards the successful functioning of the committee. Mr. Chair, India has achieved many significant milestones and noteworthy feats in the last 1 year. Chandrayaan-3 mission has demonstrated the capability of India in undertaking complex space missions. With its successful and precise soft landing near the southern pole region of the moon on August 23, 2023. The Honorable Prime Minister of India has named the landing site of the Chandrayaan-3, now approved by International Astronomical Union, and the landing site henceforth known as the Statue Shiv Shakti. The success of Chandrayaan-3 mission also stands as a testimony of India's international cooperation with major space agencies. The lander carried an auxiliary instrument named as Laser Reflector Array from NASA, which could serve as a long-term geodetic station and location marker on the lunar surface with its 8 retroreflectors. Ground stations of ISRO, located in Brunei, Indonesia, and Mauritius, European Space Agency, NASA, and Swedish Space Corporation have provided support for tracking deep space communication and navigation. Mr. Chair, Aditya L1 is a space-based solar observatory placed in a hollow orbit around the Lagrangian point L1 of Sun-Earth system. Advanced sensors on the plasma and the laser package payload has successfully detected the impact of the coronal mass injections and proves its effectiveness in monitoring space weather conditions. Further, other payloads such as the suit and the visible emission line coronagraph (VELC) have provided valuable insights on understanding the solar activity. Adding India's pursuit in the field of scientific explorations, Exposit is a space-based polarization measurement of X-ray emissions from celestial sources. Mr. Chair, towards the Indian human spaceflight program, Gaganyaan, a new test vehicle was developed and demonstrated the in-flight performance of the crew escape system and its safe recovery. Human rating of the cryogenic engine has also been carried to add confidence to the Gaganyaan program. The first batch of selected Indian astronauts for the Gaganyaan program, termed Gaganyaan-3s, was announced in February 2024. While appreciating the works of Working Group on the long-term sustainability of outer space, India has been actively contributing to the work of the committee and as well implementing the guidelines for the safe and sustainable use of outer space. The terminal stage of PSLV, converted into an experimental platform, POEM, has effectively been utilized by the numerous startups, universities, and NGOs for carrying out experiments in space. The third POEM mission on board PSLV C-58 was deorbited from 650 kilometers to 350 kilometer orbit, facilitating its early re-entry, and was passivated to remove residual propellants to minimize any accidental breakups. POEM-3 thus demonstrates a practically zero debris mission. The Honorable Prime Minister of India has set ambitious targets for the country, significant among being them establishing an Indian space station by 2035, an Indian landing on the surface of the moon by 2040. The country is gearing up towards achieving these targets. India's intent to achieve debris-free mission by all Indian space actors, governmental and non-governmental, by 2030 was announced in the annual meet of IIDC held at Bengaluru in April 2024. India also invites all other state space actors to join this initiative. India also hosted the 4th edition of Space Economy Leaders Meeting, SELM, in Bengaluru in July 2023 under India's G20 presidency. SELM recognized the role of space economy within the global economy and agreed to discuss the potential to include the item space economy on the future G20 agenda to formulate and adopt conducive policy regimes across the nations for enhanced space industry level collaboration. India has also proposed to launch a G20 satellite mission for environment and climate observation. The satellite would be built by India and would host payloads from G20 nations, and data from the satellite would be made available for the global community. Further, India plans to build a joint satellite with Mauritius for the Earth observation applications that shall assist in technical capacity building of the country's engineers towards small satellite building and operations. Mr. Chair, with the opening of the space sector in the country, India has been actively supporting and nurturing the development of new space actors of the country. A regulatory mechanism for authorizing and monitoring of space activities by non-government entities has been put in place through the Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center in Space, which ensures authorizations of space activities being undertaken. Mr. Chair, India is happy to inform that work has started towards the establishment of a second spaceport of the country at Kulshekarpatnam in Tamil Nadu state. which shall provide a direct southward launch capability. The spaceport shall cater to the launch of small satellites launch vehicles, including those from the commercial players. Mr. Chair, right from the inception, the Indian space program has always believed in the spirit of international cooperation in the space exploration and research and its peaceful use of space. India look forward to a productive session of COPUOS this summer and work towards safe, sustainable and peaceful use of outer space. Thank you, Mr. Chair and distinguished delegates.
I would like to thank the distinguished representative of India for his statement, and now I move to the next speaker on my list, which is the distinguished representative of Belgium. Please, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. Belgium is pleased to see you chair our work, and we would like to guarantee our full cooperation. We would also like to thank the Office for Space Affairs for preparing this session. Belgium fully supports the statement made by the distinguished representative of the European Union and would like to add the following in our national capacity. A year has elapsed since the last session, and many events have taken place in that year, some of them happy ones, others rather dramatic, and they've shown how important space is in our daily life. The Summit for the Future is a key time to underline the importance of space, as well as to reinforce the role of the UN Office for Outer Space and COPUOS. It's important for space policy to be acknowledged by the Pact for the Future. The long-term sustainability of space activities is a very big challenge. It was the subject of a conference in Lisbon in May, organized by UN-USA and the Portuguese Space Agency. It was a success, and we'd like to take this opportunity to thank the organizers for the quality of the work accomplished. Chair, Belgium is ending its term as President of the Council of Ministers of the European Union and is pleased at the results obtained, especially with the meeting of the Space Council that took place in Brussels on the 22nd and 23rd of May this year. Belgium, among other countries and other space actors, signed the Zero Debris Chart launched by the European Space Agency. This is commitment in favour of resilience and sustainability. Belgium supported the European Commission in its launch of EU space law, which aims to harmonise practices and standards in satellite operations within the framework of the European single market, and also to boost the sustainability and resilience of space systems. Alongside the Space Council, our country organised a competition entitled Ultra Space Challenge in partnership with the European Commission and the Eurospace Association. It appealed to the creativity and the vision of teenagers in terms of the sustainable use of outer space. We know that there will be a Belgian citizen in space soon. Raphael Liégeois, born in 1988, was selected by the European Space Agency for a mission on board the International Space Station in 2026. So he's already part of the next international generation of male and female astronauts, and for them maybe the moon will be a reality. This experience confirms the importance of diversity and means that diversity is indeed something to be cherished. Belgium would like to thank Canada for the document on gender mainstreaming toolkit and supports it in this important step forward. Chair, the UN, USA and COPUOS play an essential role in guaranteeing transparent and responsible space governance. It is indispensable for them to benefit of the necessary support from member states in order to fulfill their mandates. Thank you.
I would like to thank the distinguished representative of Belgium for her statement, and now I'm moving to the next speaker on my list, the distinguished representative of Germany. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And first of all, congratulations of the German delegation to your election and the assurance of our full support. We wish you, your team and all of us a constructive session. We align ourselves fully with the statement of the European Union and in particular with the EU's condemnation of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Distinguished delegates, space applications play an indispensable role for the sustainable development on Earth, as we have acknowledged when consenting the Space 2030 agenda. Climate change is a global phenomenon affecting people worldwide, and Germany is giving high priority to efforts to mitigate it. In this respect, Germany continues to support international programs and engages in different cooperations. In addition to hosting the UN Spider Office in Bonn, the German Space Agency at DLR took over the chairmanship of the International Charter of Space and Major Disasters from EUMETSAT and the Canadian Space Agency. To mark the start of the German chairmanship, DLR organized a conference in Bonn from 22nd to 26th of April. The assumption of this role emphasized our commitment to the use of space technology in disaster relief. We are proud to support disaster relief worldwide and thus contribute to overcoming global challenges. This collaboration enables us to respond more quickly and efficiently to crises and thus saves lives. We also cooperate space traffic and to build capacity at the LSC, while the SCSG has already stepped up here with the agreement of the 21 LTS guidelines. We have proposed an informal meeting at the invitation of Argentina, Germany and Japan. We invite the committee to welcome further consultations with a view to revisiting those ideas at the 64th session of the LSC in 2025, taking into account the ongoing work of the Scientific and Technical Subcommittee, including the work of its working group on the long-term sustainability of outer space activities. We congratulate UNOSA on the successful hosting of the first Sustainable Lunar Activities Conference, in which the Director General of our space agency participated. Germany, like other signatories of the Artemis Accords, consider COPUOS to be the central forum for the further development of international space law and is committed to continuing the important constructive exchange and cooperation with signatories and non-signatories for the benefit of a peaceful, sustainable and safe space exploration. Finally, we would like to thank all the delegations who contributed their perspectives to the Summit of the Future process. In particular, we thank Portugal for hosting the conference Management and Sustainability of Outer Space Activities and congratulate our Portuguese colleagues on the Lisbon Declaration. Germany hopes that an ambitious, action-oriented pact can be adopted at the summit. We would like to offer an opportunity for discussions of the space-related aspects of the first revision of the Zero Draft and therefore invite you to a side event on the 26th of June from 1:15 to 2:15 p.m. We see the Pact of the Future as a timely opportunity to give momentum to our discussions here at COPUOS, to advance international space governance and to strengthen our shared commitment to the safe, secure and sustainable uses of outer space. We will continue these discussions at the 2024 World Space Forum from 3rd to 5th of December in Bonn, co-hosted by the UAE and Peru. If you are interested to learn more about the current planning and your possibilities to participate, please follow the technical presentation that will be delivered on the 26th June by René Claesen, Director at the German Space Agency. Chair, the Office of Outer Space Affairs plays an important role in promoting international cooperation in outer space and in implementing the relevant international legal framework. Although UNOSA's tasks have increased, we have not seen that the Office's resources have kept pace. Germany is committed to ensuring that UNOSA receives the necessary attention and resources to fulfill its mandate in the future. Thank you for your attention.
I would like to thank the distinguished representative of Germany for his statement, and then I'm moving now to the next speaker on my list, the distinguished representative of France.
Merci, Monsieur. Thank you very much, Chairman. Chairman, Director, distinguished delegates, good afternoon. Chairman, I'd like to congratulate you on behalf of France on your election to the chairmanship of COPUOS. We wish you every success as you carry out your functions. I would also like to thank Mr. Omar Sharaf from the UAE for his heading of our work over the past 2 years. And finally, I would like to thank the director of UNOSA and her teams for preparing our work. France aligns itself with the statement of the EU and its member states and adds the following in its national capacity. My delegation recalls its firm condemnation of the military aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine. We also reiterate our commitment to the principles of exploration and use of outer space to serve all countries. This must go hand in hand with upholding the integrity of satellites in orbit. Chair, since the 66th session of our committee, we've continued our efforts in international cooperation in outer space. 2023 saw significant strides forward when it comes to climate. This happened through Earth observation missions. By way of example, I would note the French-American SWAT mission. It is already showing a surface water detection capacity even better than forecasted, or the French-Indian Trishna mission, which as early as 2026 will add to our understandings of water resources on Earth. The Space Climate Observatory continues its development with now more than 70 projects covering areas such as agriculture, water management, biodiversity, and urban adaptation. Here I would like to hail Canada, South Africa, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia, who recently joined the observatory. The UN Conference on Oceans, finally, will be organized by France and Costa Rica in 2025. It will be a time to launch the Alliance of Agencies and Space Organizations for the Ocean. I invite all space agencies to join the alliance. When it comes to scientific cooperation and exploration, the CNES currently is part of several major scientific missions with international partners, namely the JUICE probe heading for Jupiter and its icy moons, and the MMX Japanese mission sampling the Martian moon Phobos. The Chinese mission Chang'e 6 has on board the French Dorn instrument. It will be estimating the off-gassing of the lunar crust. It was launched in spring. The Chinese-French astrophysics mission SFOM in the next few days will be studying the faraway explosion of stars. Last July, from the Space Center in Guyana, the European spaceport, Ariane 5 took off yet again, making it the most reliable launcher in the world. 2024 will see the inauguration of the new heavy launcher Ariane 6 on 9 July, returning from Vega. Beyond all this, though, the Space Center in Guyana continues its important work in updating so as to stay at a global top while reducing its use of energy and making it more environmentally friendly. This will be a way of broadening its activities by hosting micro and mini European launchers. Sir, when it comes to the rapid growth of objects in outer space, we recall our commitment to the implementation of treaties and standards which are a part of this legal framework in a pragmatic and operational manner. Since 2008, we have a law on space operations that is far-reaching. It is regularly updated so as to take into account developments here. After having integrated provisions on constellations and the return of launchers in 2023, in 2024 we defined a framework for out-of-the-box operations such as orbital servicing for active satellites cooperating here. I would like to emphasize the important step forward taken by the European space law on servicing safe, sustainable and resilient space activities. We also support the space law for new space actors of USA. This serves states seeking space legislation. Recently, we financed a technical assistance mission to Malaysia. Sir, we attach particular importance to the discussions on the working group on the long-term sustainability of outer space activities. I would like to welcome the commitment of the chairman, Mr. Umameshwaran. Implementation of existing guidelines is a priority for us, so as to tackle new challenges. We will put forth pragmatic proposals, drawing on our experience, including when it comes to coordinating or managing space traffic. Finally, we will be closely following the results of the Summit of the Future. These should be in step with the work of this committee. Here I'd like to recall, by way of conclusion, our support to the recent Lisbon Statement and thank the Portuguese Space Agency and UNUSFA for everything they have done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I would like to acknowledge that we received the Russian Federation request for reply, and this will be tabled and taken into consideration at the end of this session. Now I move to the next speaker on my list, and this is the distinguished representative of Morocco. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I would like to congratulate you for your election as the chair of the 67th session of COPUOS and assure you the full cooperation of my delegation. My delegation would like also to congratulate Madam Archie Holland, Maini, Director of United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, for her opening, comprehensive and interesting statement of this morning. Mr. Chair, over the past decade, space activities have experienced a major acceleration to be intensified in the upcoming years due to the factors driving the space evolution. Indeed, we stand on the eve of a new dynamic and innovative era in the space sector, where advancement in technology and growing interests, both public and private sectors, are fostering unprecedented use and exploration of outer space. This new dynamic requires more than ever shared vision, clear strategy, and concerted actions to ensure sustainable and peaceful future in space. Henceforth, the need to develop standard and practice to ensure long-term sustainability and security of space is crucial to preserve its usefulness for current and future generations. To this end, it is crucial also to ensure that space activities are conducted for the benefit of all countries, regardless of their level of development, guaranteeing equitable access, sustainability, and peaceful use of space as a common heritage for the benefit of present and future generations. Mr. Chair, aware of the fact that peaceful use of outer space is crucial for long-term sustainability of outer space activities, Morocco expresses its commitment to a responsible and sustainable space activities and remains committed to the principle of 1967 Treaty, ensuring fair, and rational use of outer space, non-appropriation and non-militarization, including the moon and celestial bodies. Morocco is convinced that international and regional cooperation is essential to strengthen the peaceful use of outer space and to assist member states to develop their space capabilities and contribute to the achievement of sustainable development agenda by 2030. In this regard, Morocco welcomes the significant outcome of the COPUOS activities relating to the peaceful use of outer space as evidenced by the Space 2030 program, international cooperation and capacity building activities, as well as the tangible progress achieved by the working group and subcommittees. Mindful of the need to put in place measures to mitigate factors likely to hinder scientific discoveries, Morocco remains convinced that the dark sky must be preserved and protected as an element of the common heritage of humankind. Therefore, it is crucial to encourage and support research on light pollution mitigation and the effects of satellite constellation on astronomy in order to establish a balance to preserve the quality of astronomical observation activities and maintain the services provided by satellites. Mr. Chair, it's obvious that space technologies and applications are instrumental in fostering economic growth and advancing sustainable development goals, while addressing the crucial needs of environmental protection, natural resources management, agricultural development, and mitigation of adverse effects of climate change. Regarding the importance of space technologies as a vector of economic growth, Morocco has made a firm pledge to the path of mastering advanced technology and their integration into all economic sectors. Morocco's space activities have undergone notable developments after the launch in November 2017 and November 2018 of two satellites, Mohammed VI A and B. This achievement, as well as Morocco initiative through the strategic development plans, indicate very clearly that Morocco has made space technology tools as a real asset and a strategic lever within the framework of the social economic development of our country. Mindful of the role of space-based information in supported disaster management, several Moroccan departments and institutions have initiated with the Royal Center for Spatial Remote Sensing, mapping projects and exploitation of satellite image to respond, of course, to the management's needs. Morocco notes with satisfaction the support and contribution provided by the Office of Space Affairs and its UN SPIDER program in the organization of technical advisory mission and the training which took place from May 20 to 22nd, 2024 in Rabat under the theme of Geospatial Information for Natural Risk Management. Mr. Chair, capacity building, technology transfer, knowledge sharing in the field of space technology, as well as the carrying out of the research applied to space science and techniques constitute the major areas of development in integration and acceleration of the use and exploration of space, particularly in African countries. Morocco, as a member of the African Space Council of the African Space Agency, considers that cooperation with African countries is a fundamental pillar of its national strategy for the development of space activities. Several international or bilateral agreements have been completed or are in the progress for capacity building and technology transfer in the space field, serving as essential tools to meet the needs of African and developing countries. This includes ongoing discussion with Senegal aimed at promoting scientific and technical exchange to strengthen of space capabilities of both countries. It is worth mentioning that since its creation in 1998, the African Regional Center for Space Science and Technologies, affiliated to the UN, which is located in Rabat, has been committed to the development of human resources, skills in the field of space science, technology, and their application in area of societal interest. In this respect, let me share with you that with the member of the COPUOS that in 2022-2023, 79 beneficiaries from 10 African countries participate in the postgraduate training Master in Space Science and Technologies in the sector of remote sensing and geographic information systems and global systems by satellite. With this regional approach, Morocco will spare no efforts to keep fostering knowledge and understanding of space law and space policy at the African Regional Center for Space and Science and Technology, in French, CRAST LF, through the organization of higher education in space science and technology, regional workshop and short-term training offering ongoing support for these endeavors. Mr. Chair, Morocco is convinced more than ever that the use and exploitation of outer space must be done in a peaceful and sustainable manner for the interest of all countries. Morocco is committed to continue its cooperation with UN Office for Space Affairs for a peaceful use of outer space for scientific, technical and socio-economic purposes. In closing, Morocco delegation is determined to support the success of this session, guided by the Vienna spirit that has consistently prevailed during our proceeding. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I thank the distinguished representative of Morocco for his statement, and then we'll move to the next speaker on our list, the distinguished representative of Romania. Please, you have the floor.
Distinguished delegates, Mr. Chairman, Sharif Mohammed Sedki of Egypt, let me congratulate you on behalf of the delegation of Romania on your chairmanship and convey the full support of my delegation for the successful accomplishment of your mandate. We also extend our congratulations to the first Vice Chairman, Ambassador Juan Francisco Facchetti of Paraguay, and the second Vice Chair, Mr. Hassan Abbas of Pakistan, for their appointments. We warmly welcome and congratulate the UN OSA Director, Ms. Arti Holamaini, for her crucial leadership as we navigate the evolving challenges and opportunities in space, and also for the successful organization of the United Nations Sustainable Lunar Activities Conference 2024. The OSA conference, the most important in recent years, with an impressive participation, proved the importance of the highest level approach to the collaboration in the field of lunar issues, showed a spirit of mutual understanding and a desire for international cooperation, as well as the importance and the agreement for Romania's proposal to organize the action team on lunar activities consultations. Romania reaffirms its strong support for COPUOS and its subcommittees, recognizing these as essential platforms for fostering international collaboration in the peaceful uses of outer space. We acknowledge the significant role of UN OSA in supporting these efforts. The delegation of Romania fully aligns itself with the statement of the European Union at this recent session. As an active member of both the European Union and the European Space Agency, Romania participates in all major space programs and initiatives on science and exploration, human spaceflight, safety and security, Earth observation, telecommunications and integrated applications, navigations and space transportation. Recent advancement in Romania's space sector demonstrates our commitment to global space cooperation. I would like to mention here that in the fall of 2023, the Romanian Space Agency signed a cooperative agreement with the Luxembourg Space Agency. We are proud to highlight our ongoing commitment to the Artemis Accords and to our active involvement in discussing lunar sustainable exploration. At the last session, the Romanian delegation cordially invited all delegations to partake in a thorough examination of how to effectively coordinate lunar technical activities within the framework of COPUOS. In this respect, Romania is proud to propose the establishment of an action team on lunar activities consultations, ATLAC, within the framework of the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. The action team will develop recommendations aimed at improving consultations related to lunar activities. One such recommendation aims to the establishment of an international mechanism on lunar activities, which targets mainly operational activities in the cislunar and lunar environment. This mechanism will engage COPUOS member states in the significant theme for space cooperation in the coming decades, ensuring that space activities remain peaceful and beneficial for all humanity. Romania presented this initiative during the session of the Scientific and Technical Subcommittee and the Legal Subcommittee of COPUOS and organized informal consultations to gather feedback and build support for the proposal. This proactive approach underscores Romania's commitment to advancing multilateral discussions that promote the sustainable exploration of the Moon. To further refine the proposal for the mandate, terms of reference and methods of work, as well as for the final consent on the establishment of ATLAC and the steps forward, Romania has scheduled additional informal consultations on June 20 and June 25 at 9 o'clock in the morning in the room M3. The document under discussion, which includes the proposal of the various member states made in accordance with the requests sent to their missions in Vienna in May, and as a result of the discussions in the online consultations organized with the support of OSA on June 5th, is published on the session website as CRP12. We'd like to thank the delegation of the Republic of Korea for co-sponsoring the document. We cordially invite all interested delegations to participate in these sessions, which will be held, as I said, tomorrow morning, first one at 9 o'clock in the meeting room M3. With this occasion, Romania invites other delegations to co-sponsor this document, highlighting our collective commitment to fostering international cooperation in lunar activities. The final proposal will be presented as an improved CRP on behalf of the Romanian delegation, together with the co-sponsoring member states. Regarding space traffic management and space traffic coordination, Romania recognizes it as a major challenge for the space sector globally. As a member of the EU SST partnership throughout the Operational Center for Space Surveillance and Tracking hosted by the Romanian Space Agency, Romania collects data from our network of telescopes and radars, contributing to the EU regional space situational awareness. Romania contributes with sensor capabilities, data processing, and services for decision-making. Moreover, we are enhancing our surveillance and tracking infrastructure with optical and quantum technology upgrades. With this in mind, Romania welcomes and supports Germany's proposal for a study group on perspectives for space traffic management and is considering sending an expert to participate, highlighting our commitment to developing international solutions for managing the space traffic. Romania extends its heartfelt gratitude for the diligent work and commendable efforts put forward in developing the draft resolution on the United Nations designated International Year of Asteroid Awareness and Planetary Defense 2029. Our delegation fully supports this initiative and recognizes the importance of raising global awareness about asteroids and the collaborative efforts to mitigate potential hazards posed by near-Earth objects. Romania would like to join the group of states co-sponsoring this resolution, emphasizing our commitment to fostering international cooperation and ensuring the sustainable use of outer space. We look forward to actively contribute to this initiative and collaborating with our international partners to achieve its goals. We look forward to participating and actively contributing to the work of COPUOS and its subsidiary bodies, including their working groups. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and distinguished delegates, for your attention.
I would like to thank the distinguished representative of Romania for his statement, and now we move to the next speaker on the list, and I invite the distinguished representative of Finland to have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. I would like to begin by congratulating you for your election as the chair of this committee and express our delegation's full support and cooperation throughout this session. We would also like to thank Director Aati Holamaini and UNOSA for the excellent organization of this meeting. Mr. Chair, Excellencies and distinguished delegates, Finland fully aligns itself with the statement made by the European Union. International cooperation is central to the work of this committee. Regrettably, the conditions for it continue to greatly suffer due to Russia's illegal, unprovoked and unjustified war of aggression against Ukraine, which Finland has condemned since the beginning in the strongest terms. We reiterate our full solidarity with Ukraine and our firm support for Ukraine's independence, sovereignty and territorial integrity. Mr. Chair, Finland reiterates the importance of space capabilities for different sectors and functions of society and for realizing the Sustainable Development Goals. Accordingly, it is even more so critical to assure the safety and sustainability of space activities and of space environment. This is a global issue and thus calls for global governance. Finland believes that the primary method for developing space governance should be solution-oriented dialogue at multilateral forums such as this committee. We recognize the importance of COPUOS as an indispensable forum for the exchange of views on the scientific and technical, as well as policy and legal aspects on the exploration and use of outer space for peaceful purposes. Mr. Chair, the benefits of space to different sectors of society have also been a driving force in the process of updating Finland's national space strategy, which is expected to be completed by the end of this year. The growth of our space sector has been remarkable during the now ongoing strategy period 2018-2025, and we are looking forward to introduce the new strategy and goals for 2030. There are currently 28 satellites registered in our National Registry of Space Objects. All of them have been launched since 2017, when Finland became a spacefaring nation. These satellites include both scientific and commercial missions by Finnish companies and a university. In addition to these entities that are carrying out activities in outer space, a number of other Finnish companies and institutions are producing space-based services that are beneficial for different sectors of society. The underlying values behind the work for our national space strategy are sustainable use of outer space, rules-based international order and cooperation, as well as the right of everyone to utilize outer space in accordance with international treaties. We have strived to be and aim to continue being an attractive operating environment, as well as a responsible and reliable international partner in the space sector. With the new strategy, our aim is also to promote more efficient utilization of space solutions in different sectors. Mr. Chair, as we underline the importance of space activities and space-based services, we also wish to specifically point out the role of space solutions in combating climate change. As an Arctic country and one of the member states in the Arctic Council, Finland considers that sustainable growth of the Arctic area can be ensured through active development and use of space infrastructure that can serve the specific needs of the area, taking into consideration the effects of climate change that are pronounced in the Arctic. We wish to actively engage with all delegations in assuring that space solutions keep helping us tackle such global challenges and that the potential of space is availed in a sustainable manner. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Distinguished Representative of Finland. And now I'm moving to the next speaker on my list, the Distinguished Representative of New Zealand. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Tēnā koutou katoa. Greetings. Aotearoa New Zealand would like to thank you, Chair, for your efforts in leading these important discussions, and we assure you of our full support. New Zealand is one of the busiest launch countries worldwide, hosting the fourth highest number of orbital launches globally in 2023. We are also home to the world's only fully private orbital launch site. We take our role seriously as one of only a small number of gateways to space, and we are committed to promoting the peaceful, safe, secure, and sustainable use of space. We also know that to navigate and overcome global challenges, we must work together as an international community to find global solutions. New Zealand is actively playing its part. Our neighbourhood in the Pacific region is particularly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. We are focused on utilising the opportunities that space technology and space-enabled data provide to better understand and mitigate these impacts, and working with the international community to build resilience. Our investment in MethaneSat, alongside the NGO Environmental Defence Fund, is one example. MethaneSat, which launched earlier this year, will track global methane emissions. Data will be used to engage with oil and gas industry operators and regulators to drive rapid reductions in fugitive methane emissions. It will be made freely available from early 2025. Chair, New Zealand is also committed to sustainable space practices. We continue to apply and implement the guidelines for the long-term sustainability of outer space activities and addressing ongoing challenges to their global implementation and capacity building is essential to enhancing international cooperation. We particularly encourage continued cooperation on space debris and debris removal. New Zealand also supports the need for space resource utilisation to be conducted in a safe, sustainable, responsible and peaceful manner consistent with international law. We see the benefits of a multilateral approach to these issues and the potential for non-binding instruments and fora, such as the Artemis Accords, to guide the activities of states and be a useful complement in supporting the development of rules and norms in this regard. In addition, we welcome the progress made to establish the Dark and Quiet Skies, Astronomy and Large Constellations agenda item under this committee. Of particular relevance to New Zealand is the impact of satellite visibility on customary uses of the night sky by our Indigenous Maori communities, such as navigation and maramataka, or timekeeping. Chair, while progress is being made, space has also become congested, contested and competitive. We share concerns expressed by several delegations regarding potential activities that may risk the free and open use of space for all. Earlier this year, New Zealand was pleased to co-sponsor the first Security Council resolution on outer space alongside 64 member states. We deeply regretted the use of the veto on this resolution. We call on all states to abide by their international commitments in the Outer Space Treaty, in particular Article 4, and to refrain from placing nuclear weapons into orbit or from developing the capability to do so. Chair, multilateral cooperation continues to be critical as we work to address the shared challenges faced by us all. We call on all member states to take a constructive approach towards achieving a consensual outcome for our work this session, as has been the long-standing practice of this committee. Lastly, we wish to express our strong support for the important work being led by UNUSA on the Space for Women programme, including the Gender Mainstreaming Toolkit. We have a long-standing commitment to supporting gender equality and diversity. Increasing the meaningful participation of women and girls across all space activities, including in space science, technology, innovation and exploration, is critical to achieving our goals of an accessible and inclusive global space community. We call on all member states to support this important initiative. Thank you, Chair.
I would like to thank the distinguished representative of New Zealand for his statement, and now I'm inviting the next speaker on my list, the distinguished representative of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Please, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, on behalf of the delegation of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, please allow me to congratulate you and the other members of the Bureau on your election to chair the work of our work, and I would like to thank the Director and her team for all the preparation. I'd like to wish you all every success in our work, and my delegation assures you of its commitment to achieving our stated goals. The government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela is continuing with a public policy for space and the peaceful use of outer space to promote technological independence and social welfare and inclusion. Currently, the Ministry of Popular Power for Science and Technology, through the Agency for Space Activities, is carrying out a remote sensing program, VRSS-2, with the Sucre satellite and administering Earth infrastructure developed over the last 17 years. Chair, since its launch in 2017, the above-mentioned platform has captured more than 961,883 satellite images, which have facilitated Venezuela's management in strategic areas, and it was then used to help decommission our first remote sensing satellite, VRSS-1, which contributed 658,000 satellite images over 11 years. They fulfilled governmental guidelines on science and knowledge and have now been made freely accessible to everyone in Venezuela. Thanks to products generated by both of these platforms and following government guidelines to use science and technology to the benefit of people, since 2016, our space agency is now a member of the International Charter on Space and Major Disasters, and it has supplied 1,659 images for dealing with major disasters. Chair, throughout its space development, Venezuela has had several international strategic allies. Thanks to this network of cooperation and the dissemination of knowledge, Venezuela now has more than 3,000 citizens who have been specially trained in space and similar sciences. Chair, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela fully endorses the statements made by G77 and China. We strongly believe that cooperation in the exploration and use of outer space, as well as in the development of space science and technology, should be at the heart of the Summit of the Future. We believe union is the best way to deal with the challenges ahead. We are living through a very important time for humanity. It is our duty to guarantee the sustainability of the activities of states in outer space and to preserve space for future generations. Venezuela also supports the intentions to strengthen space cooperation among countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. That is why we are now ratifying our membership of the Latin American Caribbean Space Agency. This is part of ECLAC, and its aim is to contribute and strengthen sustainable and comprehensive development of space for our region to the benefit of Latin American and Caribbean populations. I would like to mention, Chair, that it has not been easy this year. The difficult consequences of unilateral coercive measures imposed on our republic have had an impact on our space program. However, we have worked and will continue to work to overcome each of these stumbling blocks in the belief that space activities are a trigger for the productive sectors of our country, and the benefits of space applications will increase the well-being of the Venezuelan population. Chair, please allow me to ratify that the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela is reiterating its commitment to the peaceful use and exploration of outer space, as well as the principles established by the General Assembly on equitable, discrimination-free access to outer space on an equal footing for all states, independently of their degree of scientific, technical, and economic development. The non-appropriation of outer space, including the moon and other celestial bodies, the non-militarization of outer space and its exploitation, with the only aim of which is to improve conditions for living and to consolidate peace on our planet. Finally, on behalf of our delegation, I would like to reiterate our willingness to cooperate and contribute to a productive debate, and I hope that our work this session is successful. Thank you.
I would like to thank the distinguished representative of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and now we'll move to the next speaker on my list, the distinguished representative of Malaysia. Please, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, my delegation congratulates you on your appointment as Chair of the 67th session of COPUOS and assure you of our cooperation and support throughout the session. My delegation associates itself with the statement by the permanent representative of Colombia on behalf of the Group of 77 and China, and would now like to make a few remarks in our national capacity. Mr. Chair, as an emerging spacefaring nation and consistent with our National Space Policy 2030, Malaysia will continuously involve, engage, and contribute to the international and regional efforts pertaining to the space activities in particular human capital development initiative. Recognizing the importance of the capacity building and expertise development, especially in the space law and policy, Malaysia has successfully hosted from 14 until 16 May 2024 the second Technical Advisory Mission, TAM, under the United Nations Space Law for New Space Actors projects, following the successful implementation of the first TAM in 2022. More than 60 participants from various government agencies, academia and industry attended the TAM this year. Malaysia expressed appreciation to the UNOOSA and the government of France for their contribution and support in this regard, and we remain keen to fostering such strategic collaboration. To increase the cooperation among ASEAN member states in space science, technology and application, Malaysia has successfully hosted the first expert exchange seminar related to space policy on 25th and 26th October 2023. Through the ASEAN Subcommittee on Space Technology and Applications, COSA platform, this flagship seminar was organized to enrich the awareness on space policy development and its contributions in line with the needs of space science exploration for the progress and well-being of the people. The second series of this seminar will be co-hosted by Malaysia and Singapore later in October this year. Malaysia also expressed appreciation to the UNOOSA and the government of Japan for the opportunity given to 5 participants from Malaysia to attend the UNU Regional Space Law Technical Advisory Mission for Asia and the Pacific countries held from 16 to 18 January 2024 in Tokyo, Japan. Mr. Chair, Malaysia believes that preserving the peaceful use of outer space and its long-term sustainability requires a cooperation of all member states to ensure that all outer space activities are carried out safely and in compliance with applicable international treaties and guidelines. Transparency, confidence-building measures, and good governance are the key elements to achieve this objective. Therefore, Malaysia reaffirms its commitment to support the work of the Working Group on the Long-Term Sustainability, LTS, of outer space activities and look forward to participate in further initiatives. Mr. Chair, my delegation is pleased to inform this session on voluntary basis regarding the relocation of the MEASAT 3A satellite from the 91.5 degree east orbital slot to 160 degree east orbital slot on 1st May 2024. In accordance with the registration requirement under the Convention on Registration of Object Launched into the Outer Space, Malaysia will submit the Space Object Registration Form to update the change to the UNOOSA as soon as possible. The said satellite was launched in 2009 and has been registered with UNOOSA on 8 February 2010. In line with Malaysian Space Exploration 2030 and Space Industry Strategic Plan, Malaysia continues to develop our domestic space ecosystem and ramp up our capabilities across different areas. Today, we have seen substantial increase in the number of local space industry players, startup researchers, and enthusiasts. We are committed to build a space talent for our ecosystem, including through educational program for the youth and general public, especially the continuation of the 5th Kibo Robot Program Challenge 2024 under strategic partnership with JAXA, which has just closed for participation on 30th May 2024. In closing, Mr. Chair, we believe that through international cooperation and collaboration among member states, specifically in the global space community in general, as well as good international governance through COPUOS and its subcommittees, we can continue to preserve the peaceful use of outer space for the benefit of current and future generations. Mr. Chair, I thank you.
I would like to thank the distinguished representative of Malaysia, and then I'll move to the next speaker on my list, the distinguished representative of Armenia. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to start by congratulating you, Mr. Sharif Mohammed Sedki, upon your election as the chairperson of the committee for the year 2024, and congratulate the newly elected members of the Bureau of the Committee, Ambassador Juan Francisco Facchetti and Mr. Hassan Abbas. I assure you of my delegation's full support. We warmly welcome Director Ati Olamaini to her first COPUOS session as the Director of UNOSA, and we reiterate our full support to her and the UNOSA team in their efforts to further advance the space agenda globally and promote international cooperation in the peaceful use of outer space. Mr. Chairman, outer space is a universal value and a common good belonging to all humankind. Therefore, space activities shall be carried out in accordance with the principle of non-appropriation, universal and non-discriminatory access to outer space for all states, and the sustainable and responsible exploration of space resources. Armenia is committed to the peaceful exploration of outer space and supports COPUOS and its two subcommittees as the unique platforms for further developing the international space law and for discussions over the legal framework for outer space governance and exploration, exploitation and usage of space resources. While the 5 UN outer space treaties which Armenia signed and ratified constitute the cornerstone of the legal regime governing the peaceful use of outer space, the non-legally binding instruments such as LTS guidelines and space debris mitigation guidelines are equally essential for shaping national space policies and activities. The significant increase in the number and diversity of actors involved in the outer space activities resulted in new challenges to the safety, security and sustainability of outer space, the most pressing issue being that of space debris, space traffic regulation, management of outer space and space resource activities. We look forward to continued discussion on these urgent topics and welcome the various initiatives in this regard. The Summit of the Future, to be held later this year, provides a timely opportunity to continue our deliberation on space governance and sustainability. We express our gratitude to Germany and Namibia for facilitating the discussions on the Pact for the Future and welcome the extensive engagement of civil society and youth organizations in this discussion. In this context, we also acknowledge the central role of the UNOSA and that of the committee, whose accumulated expertise and various tools could be put to the service and benefit of member states, especially developing the states and the new space actors. We look forward to the reflection of these important concepts in the Pact for the Future. Mr. Chairman, development of national space-related capacities in space science and technology are among the priorities of Armenian government. The launch of the first Armenian satellite in 2022 bolstered significant interest towards space, especially among youth. As a result, on 1 December 2023, the Hayasat-1, the first ever satellite designed and manufactured by Armenian scientists and engineers, was launched into space. To further develop the national aerospace engineering capacities, Armenia launched the first space master program called Aerospace Engineering, which combined professional courses with practical components and involved laboratory and research activities. Armenian research institutions such as Ali Khanian National Science Laboratory, Burakan Astrophysical Observatory and Center for Ecological Noosphere Studies, alongside private organizations, play a crucial role in advancing space science and technology in Armenia. Their contributions span across diverse fields, including cosmology, cosmic microwave studies, climate research, nanosatellite technology, and the analysis of Earth observation data. We appreciate the contribution of the UN-affiliated space centers to building the capacity of developing states and making space science and technology education accessible globally. With this in mind, Armenia joined the Board of Governors of the Center for Space Science and Technology Education in Asia and Pacific, hosted by India, making an important milestone in advancing Armenia's national space capacities and opening new opportunities for Armenian students and young professionals in the area of space science and technology. Another important undertaking was hosting of an Amadi-24 Mars simulation analog field mission in April-May, which brought together 200 scientists from 26 countries who conducted various experiments and fields of geoscience and robotics and explore limitations and advantages of the future human planetary missions. The site of the mission, the Armash region of Armenia, was selected for its geological and topographic similarity to Mars. We are also pleased to announce that on 12 June this year, Armenia signed an Artemis Accord. This is a significant development, as by signing this accord, Armenia joins a community of nations which are united by the common dedication to a peaceful exploration and use of outer space to the benefit of all nations, and the endeavor to advance the frontiers of human knowledge and capacity in space. We are confident that our involvement will not only enhance our technological capabilities by leveraging space technologies for a socio-economic development, but also inspire a new generation of Armenians to innovate and to explore the world and universe. Mr. Chairman, we attach particular importance to developing effective national capacities for using the space-based information and satellite observation data in the area of disaster management and mitigation of climate change impact. In this regard, the UN SPIDER is an important framework where the application of space technologies could help national authorities in their disaster risk reduction and disaster management efforts. The swift preliminary analysis of damage caused by the floods in Lori and Tavush provinces of Armenia by UN Satellite Center exemplifies the critical role of remote sensing technologies, Earth observation data, and the development of geospatial intelligence tools in responding to natural disaster. Mr. Chairman, we believe that enhancing space-derived economic benefits, promoting the development of space industry, facilitating the integration of the space sector into other sectors such as energy, public health, environment, etc., and leveraging space-related innovations to improve the quality of life on Earth will bring us closer to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and the targets of 2030 Agenda. So in conclusion, we once again reiterate our new support to you, and we look forward to a fruitful session. I thank you.
I would like to thank the distinguished representative of Armenia, and then we'll move to the next speaker on my list, the distinguished representative of South Africa. Please, you have the floor.
Chairperson, distinguished delegates, let me first congratulate you, Mr. Sharif Mohammed Sadiq, on your election as chair of this August Forum, and assure you of our full support. We look forward to substantive deliberation under your able stewardship. My delegation wishes to commend the work carried out by UNOSA, including its director, Mr. Arti Holamaini, Mr. Dris El Hadani, and the Secretariat for their dedicated work in the preparation for this meeting. South Africa aligns itself with the statements delivered by the G77 and China and the Africa Group. Chair, space activities should benefit all humanity and contribute to the prosperity and sustainable development of all nations. As a developing country that appreciates the vast potential space has in achieving socio-economic development priorities, we actively seek to promote research and development in space science and technology through mutually beneficial cooperation. The National Space Policy of South Africa was developed with the objective of contributing to the country's economic growth and social development, as well as extending the benefit of space technology to the African continent. Chairperson, South Africa, alongside many other countries on the continent and around the world, faces significant challenges such as climate change, extreme weather patterns, poverty, and inequality. South Africa views space-based technology and solutions as a vital accelerator to fast-track the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals and the 2063 Agenda of the African Union. Space technology can provide innovative solutions and critical data to address these pressing issues, from improving agricultural productivity and managing natural resources to enhancing disaster response and monitoring environmental changes. We reiterate the importance of providing requisite capacity building and technical assistance to developing countries to enhance their ability to leverage space technologies for sustainable development. Accordingly, South Africa supports the inclusion of a dedicated space track in the Summit of the Future and the Pact of the Future to foster cooperation and coordination to benefit all countries. Chairperson, the use and exploration of outer space activities should be carried out exclusively for peaceful purposes in a responsible manner and governed by the rule of international law. South Africa also supports all initiatives to prevent conflict in outer space, including the prohibition of any weapons in outer space, especially nuclear arsenals. Chair, the process of reforming our domestic space sector and legislation to incorporate key issues relevant to the evolving global space landscape is ongoing. South Africa is thus pleased to inform this committee of recent activities undertaken at domestic level. South Africa hosted an Earth observation stakeholder engagement workshop to support innovation and harness the full potential of Earth observation for national development. South Africa is also hosting a series of training workshops to empower authorities and decision makers to incorporate Earth observation into their business operation, focusing on spatial planning, environmental management, natural resource utilization, and disaster management and reporting. South Africa is also committed to empowering the youth to take up leadership roles in the space sector by equipping them with relevant skills, education, and expertise. In this regard, South Africa hosted a training workshop in June 2024 for early career professionals and for youth from across the continent. South Africa also hosted the Africa round of the Mutual Large Space Law Moot competition from 22 to 24 May 2024. This year, Africa will be represented in the finals by the Midlands State University from Zimbabwe. The growing number of teams from across Africa reflects the increasing interest in this dynamic competition, resulting in a pool of African law graduates specializing in space law. As South Africa celebrates its 30th anniversary of democracy, these activities underscore our ongoing commitment to leverage space technology for socio-economic development, advance scientific knowledge, and contribute to global space exploration effort. In this regard, it is my great pleasure to invite member states to an African side event which will be hosted under the theme Empowering Africa, Leveraging Space Technologies for Sustainable Development on Friday, the 21st June. Chairperson, South Africa welcomes the gender mainstreaming toolkit developed by Canada under the Space for Women initiative to enhance diversity, inclusivity, and equitable participation of women in the space sector. We look forward to the 5th edition, which will be hosted in Kenya. South Africa is also pleased to note that the Scientific and Legal Subcommittee reached consensus on an agenda item relating to dark and quiet skies and large constellations. The impact of light pollution on terrestrial astronomy underscores the need for coordinated efforts to mitigate its effects. Chair, South Africa wishes to reaffirm our wish that outer space should remain a unifying object for the good of humanity and is not contaminated by geopolitical and narrow parochial interests and greed, that it ushers in a new humane and beneficial approach as seen in the stories we have heard from the astronauts yesterday who have shared their experience with us here from the different backgrounds and countries. Once again, Chair, we assure you of our support and wish the success of this 67th session of United Nations Committee on Peaceful Uses of Outer Space.
I would like to thank the distinguished President of South Africa, and now I'll move for the next speaker on my list, the distinguished representative of Panama. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Our delegation would first of all like to congratulate you on your election to chair the 67th session of our committee on the peaceful uses of outer space. We would also like to congratulate the other members of the Bureau, especially our beloved colleague, Ambassador Juan Francisco Facchetti of Paraguay as first Vice Chair, and Mr. Hassan Abbas of Pakistan, the second Vice Chair and Rapporteur. And we would like to assure you of Panama's full support for you as Chair and all the members of the Bureau as we consider the agenda items. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Director of the UN Office for Space Affairs, Ms. Abdi Holamaini, and the Secretariat for all their preparatory work. Chair, Panama supports the statement made by G77 and China, and in our national capacity would like to make the following comments. The growing membership of COPUOS in recent years is a clear indicator of the international acknowledgement of COPUOS' unique role as a legitimate universal forum within the United Nations to promote the peaceful use of outer space. In this regard, Panama welcomes the participation of observers here at COPUOS and in its subcommittees, because that fosters greater involvement and a higher profile for our activities. Our country calls upon all members of the United Nations to join the treaty and to ensure that outer space is only for peaceful purposes and that its benefits reach everyone. Panama believes that the use and the exploration of outer space should only be for peaceful purposes and to establish a shared vision for the future to the benefit of all countries, independently of their economic, technological, and scientific development, and in respect of international public law and international space law. At the same time, it is essential to work together to overcome legal loopholes and vacuums in some international rules regarding the use and exploitation of outer space, the moon, other celestial bodies and their resources. Chair, our delegation would like to emphasize the importance of the guidelines governing activities in outer space, such as equitable and universal access to space for all countries without discrimination, the equitable and rational use of outer space to the benefit of humanity, the principle of non-appropriation of outer space, and the promotion of international cooperation within the sphere of space activities. Moreover, it is imperative to develop complementary general principles such as the fair distribution of benefits, including technology, training, exchange of data, and financial benefits to guarantee the sustainability of space development for all member states. Panama believes that the Summit and Pact of the Future are an invaluable opportunity to foster cooperation and coordination in the exploration and use of outer space, with a special focus on capacity building, technical and scientific support, as well as economic and financial support to the benefit of all countries, but especially developing countries. Panama reiterates its commitment to preventing an arms race in space and the establishment of arms of any type in space. We urge states, especially those that have notable space capacity, to promote the peaceful use of outer space and avoiding the deployment of weapons, and adopting measures to foster transparency and confidence among members of the international community. We believe we should consider returning to the debate about an authority for outer space in line with international space law. Panama believes that all activities in outer space, including mega constellations and their associated operations, must respect the UN Charter and its principles, as well as international public and space law. All states must avoid promoting, adopting, and implementing unilateral measures contrary to international public law and international space law and the UN Charter. Chair, Panama would like to highlight the growing participation of developing countries in COPUOS. This shows how important capacity building is for member states who do not have experience in those areas, providing them with space technology, scientific research, and even economic resources, ideally from the space aid industry itself. For Panama, it is essential to increase cooperation. We have been working with the European Space Agency with regards to Earth observation and disaster management. That is progress, and it achieves several goals which optimize the use of space information in our region, specifically capacity building and technical assistance and technology transfer, as well as economic resources, are key pillars for boosting skills in the international community in terms of space. And finally, Chair, Panama would like to reiterate its support to Director Arti Holamaini in her efforts to be inclusive, transparent, effective, and professional at the head of UN-USA, paying special attention to the needs of developing countries in close coordination with more developed countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished representative of Panama. And before moving to the next speaker, I just want to remind the distinguished representatives of keeping the time of the statements, because now we are running a little bit late on our schedule, and we have lots of line-up for speakers, and we have the session for the right of reply, and then we need to start the next agenda item. So please strictly follow the statement allocated time interval. Now I'll move to the next speaker on my list, the distinguished representative of El Salvador. Please, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chair. My delegation would like to congratulate you on your election as chair of this committee, and we would also like to congratulate the vice chairs, and we would like to thank Director Arti Holamaini and the Secretariat for their work preparing this session. You can count on the support of my delegation. Chair, El Salvador reaffirms that its commitment and full respect for the principles and agreements that should govern the activities of states in the peaceful exploration and use of outer space. In this regard, my delegation would like to highlight that the activity of states in the exploration and use of outer space must be based on the following aspects: shared use, peaceful use, equitable use, as well as international solidarity and cooperation. El Salvador supports those measures and provisions to preserve outer space as an area of peace and development, to prevent its militarization and to foster international cooperation to the benefit of human development, as well as promoting access to the benefits of the use and exploration of outer space by countries that have not yet used the advantages of this benefit for humanity. We encourage countries who have developed exploration and uses to share their progress, as that means we can all grow together. Chair, El Salvador reaffirms that COPUOS is the multilateral forum where we should discuss and analyze legally binding instruments regulating the activities of the peaceful use of outer space. That is why it is so important to have a system of binding and comprehensive international rules covering the activities of space resources to prevent any negative impact on their preservation, to guarantee its sustainability in the long term, and foster the development of countries and promote international cooperation. For my country, one of the main challenges with regards to outer space is to offset the growing proliferation of space debris. We therefore believe we need to join together our efforts to comprehensively deal with that problem, urging countries with space programs to fulfill their responsibilities to provide complete and timely information, avoiding space debris and then their proper removal, guaranteeing a safe and sustainable future. Equally, my delegation would like to emphasize the relevance of fostering a space education so that a new generation of specialized scientists and experts will be able to strengthen our capacity to participate actively and in the long term in space projects with international bodies to make the most of the opportunities arising from outer space. Moreover, it is important to increase efforts to promote capacity building, technology transfer, prevention and mitigation of natural disasters, scientific and technological research, which mean that countries like ours can have access to space and space activities. Chair, in November 2023, the director of the El Salvadorian Institute of Social Security participated as a panelist in the International Conference on Space and Global Health, co-organized by UN-USA and the WHO. She shared our national experience with regards to telemedicine as a new model for healthcare, and she introduced the online platform Dr. ISSS, which is meant to boost accessibility and the continuity of medical services, and our country is a benchmark in that. El Salvador is highly vulnerable to natural disasters and climate change. We are interested in making the most of technical and scientific advice that COPUOS can provide on different subjects. This means that space technology would help develop nations. Particularly, there's interest in disaster management, health, and training of experts. Because of this, my delegation welcomes the initiatives of the UN Spider platform, which provides measures to prevent and mitigate disasters. My country is glad that in response to a request from our government with the support of the German Agency for International Cooperation and the Mexican Space Agency from the 17th of May to the 14th of July 2023, there was a training course on UN Spider in El Salvador, which grouped together 45 experts from different public institutes, universities, and NGOs to build capacity in the use and processing of satellite images to generate maps of flooded areas. Finally, the government of El Salvador acknowledges the contribution of space science and technology to natural disaster management, environmental protection, telemedicine, and distance learning, among others. El Salvador would like to work on specific technical cooperation for UN initiatives, especially in telecommunications, telemedicine, natural resources and agriculture, monitoring climate change, weather, and combating natural disasters, to name but a few. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the distinguished representative of El Salvador. Now we move to the next distinguished representative of Brazil. Please, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates, good afternoon. On behalf of the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation of Brazil, I cordially greet all the present. It's an honor to address such a distinguished audience to underpin Brazil's commitment to draw space science, technology and innovation as pillars of the Brazilians' development, aiming at fighting regional and social inequalities, as well as enhancing the country's capacity in strategic areas. Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates, the challenges of the future are already deeply impacting human beings and societies around the globe, and the effects of climate change are exposing the science, technology, and innovation divide among nations. Brazil considers space science, technology, and innovation as being of vital use in responding to climate change risks. Nonetheless, the recent floods in Brazil have unfolded the significant challenges for adapting life on the planet to guarantee a better present and safeguard its future. More than ever, space technologies such as Earth observation satellites play a key role in aiding the decision-making on Earth. In this regard, Brazil considers paramount to highlight the task force composed by different Brazilian institutions to process and generate satellite images in order to have a better understanding of the extension of the damage caused by the recent floods in Brazil. Following these lines, Brazil emphasizes the construction, jointly with China, of the first geostationary and meteorological satellite developed by the country. The satellite Cybers 5, to be located over the Brazilian territory, represents a milestone of the Brazilian space program, adding an important tool to the Brazilian infrastructure for responding to these threats. As well as working on improving its short-term measures, Brazil is seeking to foster national initiatives which promote the use of science and scientific evidence in policymaking, such as the platform Adapta Brasil MCTI. Nevertheless, the transboundary characteristics of the challenge that climate change imposes creates the need to combine national and international efforts, transforming international cooperation in a vital component of the current era. In this sense, Brazil emphasizes the importance of initiatives such as the International Charter Space and Major Disasters as international cooperation frameworks for promoting a more inclusive and accessible use of available space data, technologies, and applications to the benefit of all. Adding to natural disasters and climate change risks, environmental crises are likewise threats to sustainability of the planet and to the well-being of its inhabitants. In this context, Brazil points out the ongoing development of the remote sensing satellites Amazonia 1B and Cybers 6 as a crucial step for monitoring and controlling deforestation, in addition to contributing to border and coastal surveillance and water studies. In a global scenario of inequalities that poses a persistent challenge to the promotion of public policies, both for countries and international agencies, Brazil is committed to promoting space policies, research and development in order to foster innovative solutions that will enable the benefits of space to reach the Brazilian society as a whole, encouraging a more sustainable and inclusive development and boosting the achievement of the 2030 Agenda. Notwithstanding, in order to have an equitable access to the benefits of the exploration and use of outer space, it is essential to consider the long-term sustainability of space activities. The space domain is undergoing rapid transformations, not only with the emergence of new space technologies, such as those that make use of artificial intelligence, but also with the presence of a greater number, as well as of a greater diversity of space actors. Within this frame of reference, Brazil emphasizes the importance of nurturing and continuously updating the LTS guidelines, as well as fostering international cooperation. We highlight in this sense the relevance of the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities so as to foster more sustainable space practices while maintaining outer space as a province of all humankind, including unimpeded access to space and to space technologies, particularly to Global South countries. This way, outer space can be a driver for the achievement of the SDGs on Earth, helping the understanding of the needs of the present whilst preparing for the challenges of the future. In closing, Brazil spotlights the first Open Universe Initiative capacity building event to be carried out in December in hybrid mode by UNOSA and Brazil. In addition, Brazil welcomes the inclusion of the theme Dark and Quiet Skies on the provisional agenda of the STSC, reaffirms its support to the empowerment of women and girls in STEM fields, and congratulates the Republic of Kenya for hosting the 2024 UNOSA's annual Space for Women expert meeting in November. Thank you.
I would like to thank the distinguished representative of Brazil, and then we'll move to the next speaker on my list, the distinguished representative of Algeria. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. At the outset, I wish to congratulate you, Mr. Mohammed Sharif Sadki, upon your election to the chairmanship of the COPUOS. We wish you all success in your endeavors. Equally, we wish to express our appreciation to Mr. Omran Sharaf for his sterling stewardship of the COPUOS previously. I equally thank UNOSA and Ms. Artiho Lamaini at its helm. We thank the UNOSA for the excellent preparation for the current session. We align ourselves with the statement on behalf of the G77 in China and the African Group. Chair, we wish to pay tribute to the role of COPUOS and its two subcommittees as a platform for international cooperation and coordination. We should further invest in this platform to advance the peaceful uses of outer space, thus serving sustainable development and prosperity. We wish to highlight the following. First of all, we commit to a prohibition of the militarization of outer space and the placement of weapons of mass destruction in outer space, in addition to calling for strengthening the current legal framework to preempt any arms race in outer space. Second, outer space delimitation and definition is of the utmost importance in view of the close interrelationship between national aerospace and outer space. Thirdly, equitable access to orbital slots, particularly in favor of developing countries, regardless of their technical advancement level. Fourth, countering the proliferation of space debris and ensuring the unhindered development of emerging space capacities in developing countries. Chair, we attach utmost importance to international cooperation as a vehicle for sharing expertise and know-how, including when it comes to strengthening and developing space technologies and applications. We have hosted a number of events and taken part in a number of events at the national level, at the regional level, at the continental level, and in our capacity as host of the UN Spider Regional Support Office. The Algerian Space Agency organized in April in cooperation with the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers the third edition of the seminar on Earth Sciences and Remote Sensing for the Middle East, the Mediterranean, in addition to the African continent, with the participation of 20 countries from the region and 175 experts and researchers. Equally, we have been elected, rather, to the African Space Council. Hence, we shall work steadfastly to promote the African Outer Space Program within the African Union Agenda 2063. Chair, at the national level, convinced of the importance of international cooperation and coordination, in 2023 we adhered to the ICG in parallel with the development of a satellite-based augmentation system in Algeria. The Algerian Space Agency continued its activities within the 2040 vision, particularly when it comes to space-based systems and the use of communications and telecommunications satellite, Alcomsat-1, in addition to the 3 ALSAT satellites and the ALSAT ground control stations under the supervision of the Satellite Development Center. Equally, we have implemented a number of projects focusing on preventing major catastrophes and risks and the management of natural catastrophes, particularly focusing on wildfires. Such advanced space technologies have been utilized to carry out an assessment of forest resources and land under serial production through the mapping of such areas. We attach a particular importance to training, which we organize through the National School of Geodetic Sciences and Space Techniques, which was established in 2020, in addition, of course, to scientific streams available in our national universities. Prior to concluding, I wish to congratulate China on its mission Chang'e 6, which allowed for the collection of samples from the far side of the moon and the return thereof to Earth. Thank you.
Representative of Algeria, and then we move to the next speaker on my list, the distinguished representative of the Dominican Republic. Please have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. The Dominican Republic supports the statement made by G77 and China, and we would like to make the following comments in our national capacity. Our delegation would like to congratulate Ambassador Sharif Mohammed on his election as chair of the 67th session of the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space. We would like to express our support for his work. We would also like to thank the director, Holamaini, for organizing this meeting and the Secretariat for preparing all the documents. And of course, we would like to congratulate the new members of the Bureau. The government of my country is pleased to inform you that our country ratified the Constitutional Convention of the Latin American and Caribbean Space Agency in May 2024, and the instrument was then deposited in Mexico. This means that our country can strengthen its participation in space issues and make the most of opportunities for scientific and technological cooperation and exchange of experiences, as well as consolidating relations among states in our region. My government is grateful for the invitation to participate in the third meeting of Space Agency's members of the Italo-Latin American International Organization, which took place in Chile in April 2024. This meant we were able to exchange knowledge and consolidate professional links. At that meeting, we reaffirmed support for the Latin American and Caribbean Space Agency and drew up a list of actions and long-term projects. Chair, my government reiterates its interest in continuing to strengthen institutional infrastructure to define policies so that we can have projects to boost outer space exploration with different stakeholders from public and private sector and including the academic sector. This means that we can include members of civil society such as the Astronomy Society of the Dominican Republic and the Dominican Aerospace Association, among others. This means we can promote national cooperation in space, coordinate research projects to solve problems that affect our country and other countries in our region. It also means we can strengthen the link between international organizations, of which my country is a member, such as UN-USA, and the Latin American and Caribbean Space Agency. We believe that national and international cooperation is vital to foster the Dominican Republic's aerospace ecosystem. Therefore, we are continuing to strengthen bonds of friendship and cooperation with the International Astronomical Union, the Latin American and Caribbean Space Network, and the Italo-Latin American International Space Organization. And we're very grateful to them for their support. The Dominican Republic has made progress with its first nanosatellite, Quisqueya-Sat-1. This satellite was designed by the Santo Domingo Technology Institute to monitor climate change and to detect sargasso seaweed. This is a challenge. This has been a challenge for tourism in our country. We are working with La Sapienza University in Rome and the Italo-Latin American International Organization called Space in the Service of Research, Innovation and Sustainable Development in Latin America. In this sense, we hope that the satellite will contribute to capacity building in my country. My government would like to take this opportunity to reiterate support for dark skies to reduce visual pollution at low Earth orbits. We will continue to promote legislative initiatives to mitigate space debris and to implement the guidelines for the long-term sustainability of outer space. This is an essential framework for the coordinated use of outer space, according to which members of COPUOS will give continuity and provide voluntary information on implementation and progress. Finally, my government reaffirms its commitment to the committee's main goal of guaranteeing the peaceful use of outer space as well as global peace and security. Thank you.
I would like to thank the distinguished representative of the Dominican Republic, and then we move to the requests for right of reply. So now I give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Republic of Korea to exercise the right of reply. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding the right of reply made by the Russian delegation, I would like to exercise the right of reply to provide some clarifications. We are pointing out the fact that the DPRK bears a legal obligation under the multiple UN Security Council resolutions which prohibit any launch by the DPRK using ballistic missile technology. The bottom line is that regardless of what DPRK calls its so-called satellite launch using ballistic missile technology is in violation of multiple UN Security Council resolutions. Therefore, we believe that it is of critical importance for the international community to fully repel any attempt by the DPRK to gain legitimacy by falsely appealing the right of peaceful uses of outer space, especially since the DPRK has already declared its intention to conduct additional launches. In addition, we would like to emphasize that the Republic of Korea's space cooperation with other countries, including the United States, fully respects international law and is conducted responsibly and transparently. We hope other countries, including the DPRK, to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished representative of the Republic of Korea. Now I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Austria to exercise the right of reply. Please, you have the floor.
Chair, thank you very much for giving me the floor, and I would like to refer to the same statement, mentioning inter alia also our host country obligations. And Mr. Chair, please let me assure you that Austria, as a host country of numerous international organizations, is committed as always to fulfilling these obligations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, distinguished representative of Austria. Now I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Ukraine to exercise the right to reply. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, since Ukrainian delegations take the floor for the first time, let us kindly congratulate you on the assumption of this important role. We wish you every success and endless energy in your work. You have our full support. I can count on us. We also extend our support to the first Vice Chair, Mr. Juan Francisco Facchetti, and to the second Vice Chair, Mr. Hassan Abbas. We reiterate our full support to the Director of the UNOSA, Mrs. Arti Holamaini, and express our gratitude for excellent work and preparations for this session. Dear Mr. Chair, by exercising our right of reply, we would like to remind the delegation of the Russian Federation that every distinguished member of the COPUOS, as an equal member of this unique platform, has its own right to deliver a national statement, especially under agenda item general exchange of views, in the manner they consider appropriate. The same applies to the statement of the EU as a permanent observer, and we have to respect it. Also, Ukrainian delegation would like to reassure the delegation of Russia that we will consistently raise the issue of Russian war of aggression against Ukraine and its impact on Ukraine's space activity at every session of this committee and its subcommittees. Why? Because one space country is waging the unprovoked and unjustified war against another space country, because Russia violated all the norms and principles of the international law, including the UN Charter and the Outer Space Treaty. The actions of the Russian Federation represent a blatant violation of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity and a threat to global peace and security. We consider that this issue falls under the mandate of COPUOS. Distinguished delegates, today in this room we can see a large delegation of Russian Federation. Yes, it has such possibilities. At the same time, Ukraine has no capabilities to be represented in full. Why? Because of Russian war of aggression against my country. We believe it is our duty to remind this distinguished audience of the persistent challenges we face due to Russia's unlawful actions. Our space infrastructure has been targeted and damaged, impacting not only Ukraine, but the broader international space community that relies on stability and cooperation. So, we will continue to speak out until the Russian Federation withdraws its armed forces from Ukraine and ceases all violations of our internationally recognized borders. Only then we can restore the principles of peace and cooperation that are essential for the peaceful use of outer space. I thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, distinguished representative of Ukraine. Now I give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Russian Republic Federation. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman, for giving me the floor. To begin, would like to ask a question. On what basis has the distinguished delegate of Ukraine asked for a right of reply? In my right of reply, I simply recalled that the matter of the armed conflict in Ukraine is not on COPUOS's agenda. This is simply a statement of fact, as per the rules of procedure of the UNGA and its sub-bodies. In a statement of fact, a rule of reply is not applied. I would thus request the distinguished Secretariat and the distinguished delegate of Ukraine to take a close look at the rules of procedure of the UN General Assembly. Now, on the statement made by the distinguished delegate of Ukraine, to the effect that he is planning to use each and every agenda item of the committee so as to discuss the issue of the armed conflict in Ukraine. Basically, the Ukraine representative has just acknowledged that he is planning to politicize the work of the committee, in spite of the fact that the agreed agenda contains no item on Ukraine, and is planning to blatantly and rudely break with the rules of procedure in spite of the appeals of the chairman made during the beginning of the session to stick to the agenda. We believe that this is inadmissible. We would request that the chairman take measures such that the delegate of Ukraine is brought to order. Or I will do that myself. Now I would like to respond to the distinguished delegate of the Republic of Korea. We carefully listened to your statement. We would like to remind you that UN COPUOS is not the UN Security Council and thus cannot qualify actions of the DPRK as a violation of resolutions. We are not either a specialized body for the control of missile technologies. In that format, professional dialogue can happen on MTCI. On MTCI, there can be professional dialogue on the existence of military and ballistic technologies and their difference from peaceful ones. I would request that the distinguished delegate of the Republic of Korea might take this fact into account in his future statements. Now, when it comes to the right of reply from the distinguished delegate of Austria, we heard that you intend to stick to your obligations as per the agreement, the seat agreement. However, I just received info from Moscow to the effect that the key expert from our delegation on legal matters, a highly placed diplomat, still has received no visa to Austria. The visa application was received in the embassy in Moscow on 28 May, 21 days ago, that is. So we don't understand what reasons might be behind the non-issuance of a visa to the Russian diplomat, as a result of which he was unable to participate in the events. We believe that this is unfriendly and inadmissible. Furthermore, I, as head of delegation, have received a short-term visa which will expire on the first half of the day on 29 June, which means that I must leave Austria immediately after the conclusion of the meeting. We do not see such gestures as good faith implementation of obligations when it comes to issuing delegations visas. This is unacceptable. We understand that the Republic of Austria is guided by political motives, but we think that instead you might think about the damage that you are making to your political reputation and the damage that could also be done to the committee if its work and functioning is undermined. Now, briefly, if I could respond to the delegate's remarks from New Zealand. In spite of my very detailed clarifications, again, in his statement, he touched upon the issue of the American-Japanese resolution on the UN Security Council and the non-placement of nuclear weapons in outer space. Colleagues, if you continue raising this topic in your statements, I will have to share with the committee our information as to why the document arose and the political aims it pursues. And I think this will be a very unpleasant type of discussion. We'd like to avoid it on the committee. Thank you.
I would like to thank the distinguished representative of the Russian Republic, and I just need to note that the right of reply was given to the Ukrainian representative based on the fact that they raised the flag to exercise the right of reply following the Russian Federation statements. So that was the now I would like to move to the next agenda item, item number 6, and I will really ask you for coordination just to move forward with the agenda item and to focus on the substantive items of our meeting. So moving to agenda item 6, distinguished delegates, I would like now to begin our consideration of agenda item 6, ways and means of maintaining outer space for peaceful purposes. The first speaker on my list is the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation. So please, you have the floor.
Я благодарю.
Thank you very much, Chairman, for giving me the floor. Under item 6 of the agenda, allow me to apologize ahead of time. This is a long statement. I don't know if I can stick to the 5 minutes, and so I won't try to give the statement in full. Delegations can see the full version on the USA website. Chairman, the Russian Federation has always called for retaining outer space for peaceful purposes and as the province of all humankind. We are worried and regret to note that these values are not shared by all member states of UN COPUOS. A number of space leaders have adopted and are implementing doctrinal notions which are aimed at turning the near-Earth space into yet another operational domain for armed confrontation. In so doing, they jeopardize the prospects of the peaceful exploration of outer space. At the same time, these countries systematically undermine multilateral efforts for adopting legally binding norms to prevent interstate rivalry in outer space. Instead, the international community is supposed to focus on crafting some sort of norms, rules, and principles for responsible behavior. Chairman, we are sure that one of the main ways to retain outer space for peaceful purposes should be a conscientious and voluntary refusal of each state of taking force or the threat of force with respect to space objects and the non-placement of weapons, any type of weapon, in outer space. We insist that the prevention of an arms race in outer space, as well as preventing outer space, our common heritage, from becoming an area of clashes, is the most important challenge for humanity. The leading role of COPUOS in this process is not just dictated by time, but is clearly set forth in its mandate. The committee has the necessary tools to accomplish this. Chairman, the likelihood of the threshold being crossed when conflict becomes inevitable, calling into question the safety of space operations, is increased manifold by the new non-state subjects as well as space services with civil and military users. There is a threat of the use of space systems, including commercial ones, for non-declared purposes. There's a striking increase in the number of objects and frequency of flights in outer space, which leads to an increase in the risk of accidents, clashes, as well as debris, which threatens the long-term sustainability of outer space activities. These problems going along with conflict are particularly pressing for embarking countries. This is because they might be insufficiently aware of the situation in outer space, so as to figure out risks, or perhaps don't have possibility of countermeasures. To ensure the long-term sustainability of outer space activities, the time has come to launch on UN COPUOS focused dialogue to increase awareness regarding problems having to do with the saturation of the low Earth space, an increase in the risks of incidents, collisions, and debris, the appearance of new non-state subjects, and an increase in space services with civilian and military users. The use of commercial space systems, including ground-based infrastructure for ensuring intel and military operations for foreign military forces, and interference in the internal affairs of sovereign states. All of the ideas are set forth in detail in the Russian Federation's working document, which in the nearest future will be distributed. We invite all delegations to take a look at it and also to take part in the open consultations on this matter, which are set for 24 June. Chairman, the Russian Federation will continue to fruitfully and actively participate in establishing international order for space traffic management due to its cluttering man-made saturation due to an increase in space flights. And we will ensure that risks here are fully minimized. This is the goal of creating the information analytic basis for the safety of space flights in the near-Earth space, a system called the Milky Way, which should be an integral component of national and international information systems for space traffic management, as well as the retention of outer space for peaceful purposes. The Russian Federation will engage in constructive dialogue on all matters having to do with the international space agenda, focusing on retaining outer space for peaceful purposes. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, distinguished representative of the Russian Federation. Now I move to the next speaker on my list, and I invite the distinguished representative of Australia. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Distinguished delegates, all countries are increasingly reliant on space services for their connectivity, prosperity, and security. Space science and technology deliver essential enabling services such as telecommunications, navigation, financial management, emergency response, and traffic management. The data derived from space-based technologies is integral to our endeavours in tackling global challenges like climate change, extreme weather and environmental events, and disaster management. It is in all our interests that we take effective and appropriate measures to maintain outer space for peaceful purposes. As we come together to tackle global challenges, our cooperation within the United Nations system is more important than ever. The Outer Space Treaty is the cornerstone of the international legal frameworks governing the use and exploration of outer space. Australia would like to take this opportunity to call on all states who have not yet done so to ratify the Outer Space Treaty, and those who have ratified to comply fully with their obligations under this treaty. Chair, in late April, we had an opportunity as an international community to reaffirm our commitment to maintaining and protecting the peaceful uses of outer space. The United Nations Security Council resolution put forward by the United States and Japan carried the simple message that states must comply with their international law obligations applicable to outer space, and that states that are party to the Outer Space Treaty must comply with the obligations contained therein. Importantly, the resolution recalled the obligations of state parties not to develop nuclear weapons or any other kind of weapons of mass destruction specifically designed to be placed in orbit around the Earth or to be installed on celestial bodies or stationed in outer space in any manner. Australia was pleased to be part of a cross-regional group of 65 states that co-sponsored this important resolution. And despite the veto of it by a permanent member of the Security Council, Australia will continue to call on all states parties to the Outer Space Treaty to comply with their obligations, including Article 4. Chair, maintaining outer space for peaceful purposes is vital for preserving the viability of space infrastructure, and we acknowledge COPUOS as a primary UN body for discussing peaceful uses of outer space. However, the work COPUOS champions does not exist in a vacuum, and the discussions on space security in the UN disarmament fora are equally important for a peaceful outer space environment, particularly the work of UNGA First Committee in advancing measures to ensure all states act and behave in a responsible manner. It is incumbent on all member states to ensure they are acting responsibly in pursuing our collective goal of preventing an arms race in outer space in a meaningful and effective manner. This means adopting an approach to Paros that takes into account the nature of the outer space environment as it exists and as it now exists, and the full range of threats we are seeing. It means acknowledging the definitional and verification challenges inherent in the dual-use nature of space objects. It means adopting an approach with the appropriate flexibility to keep up with the technological advances and other developments in the outer space environment. It is for these reasons that Australia and a growing number of states advocate for an approach focused on developing norms, rules, and principles of responsible behaviours. We look forward to advancing this important issue in the course of next year's open-ended working group discussions. I thank you.
I would like to thank the distinguished representative of Australia, and now we move to the next speaker on my list, the distinguished representative of Canada. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Maintaining outer space for peaceful purposes is an issue that is of paramount importance. As we continue to increase our reliance on space-based services for the functioning of our societies, it becomes ever more critical to ensure that we maintain a secure, safe, and sustainable space environment. This is a global effort and the responsibility of all states, underpinned by a robust multilateral system with the UN at its core. As the peaceful exploration and the use of outer space enters an exciting phase involving new frontiers and new activities, we must all remember that outer space is not lawless. International law, including the Charter of the United Nations and international humanitarian law, applies to outer space activities. It is also thanks to the legal framework established by the core space treaties through COPUOS that humanity has been able to successfully use and explore outer space for the benefit and in the interests of all countries. Indeed, Canada believes that we already have the most essential tools at our disposal to ensure the preservation of outer space for peaceful purposes. In particular, Canada cannot overemphasize the importance of the Outer Space Treaty, signed by 115 states, and which has served a core role in keeping space safe and secure for more than half a century. And while not a disarmament instrument, it contains a critical provision that seeks to prevent the most destructive and destabilizing activity in outer space. Article 4 explicitly prohibits the placement in orbit of objects carrying nuclear weapons or any other kinds of weapons of mass destruction, ensuring that any conflict on Earth does not extend into outer space, and preventing an arms race in outer space begins with the universalization and strict adherence to the current international legal framework. Without this, it is difficult to build the environment of trust needed to maintain space for peaceful purposes. It is also for this reason that Canada regrets the veto earlier this year of a UN Security Council resolution that was focused on reaffirming this important principle of international law. This resolution, led by the US and Japan, garnered significant support with 65 co-sponsors. Canada was pleased to count itself among those supporters. Mr. Chair, while the work of COPUOS focuses on the preservation of outer space for peaceful purposes, Canada believes that work undertaken in other multilateral fora to enhance space security complements and augments the important work done here at COPUOS. For instance, transparency and confidence-building measures that seek to enhance communication and improve information sharing are particularly helpful at reducing misperceptions and miscalculations. This becomes especially important during times of heightened tensions. Ways to enhance information exchange and promote transparency can be done through tools such as the registration of space objects with the UN and advance notification of launches in accordance with the Hague Code of Conduct. Norms of responsible behavior can also contribute greatly to the preservation of a sustainable and peaceful space environment. It is why Canada continues to support efforts to reduce space threats through norms, rules, and principles of responsible behavior, and we look forward to the start of next year's open-ended working group that will aim to further develop and refine this work, and which is essential to building a foundation of mutual trust and understanding amongst states. From Canada's perspective, pragmatic, non-binding standards of responsible behaviors, if accepted by a majority of nations, could become legally binding international law in the future. Canada also welcomes the Summit of the Future taking place later this year, which aims to address emerging challenges and foster a more resilient global community for future generations. Space will be integral to this process, and we welcome the Secretary General's efforts to develop a pact of the future that amplifies some of the key emerging trends and challenges to governance that the global community is facing in the space environment. Canada believes these efforts, with COPUOS at the center of space governance, will be critical to advancing the key theme of preserving space for peaceful purposes. Mr. Chair, Canada is unequivocal and unwavering in its support for the peaceful uses of outer space, and we will continue to devote our efforts to ensuring the long-term sustainability and preservation of the space environment for the benefit of all humanity for generations to come. Thank you for your attention.
I would like to thank the distinguished representative of Canada, and then I'll move for the next distinguished representative on my list, the distinguished representative of Italy. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And since this is the first time our delegation takes the floor, allow us to congratulate you for your election, and please rest assured of our full support during our deliberation. Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates, Italy strongly supports COPUOS efforts toward maintaining outer space for peaceful purposes. This agenda item is a matter of priority, and Italy recognizes it as essential for the international community. We acknowledge the relevance of multiple fora with different mandates to collectively advance the global governance of outer space. While matters directly related to security issues in outer space are best addressed in fora specifically mandated to tackle such aspects, like the Conference on Disarmament, it is crucial to foster the leadership of COPUOS and the General Assembly to ensure complementarity between different entities, and we must avoid unnecessary duplication and ensure that the specific mandates of each body are duly respected, while ensuring the necessary coordination. Mr. Chair, Italy would like to emphasize its efforts as President of the G7 in 2024 to build a frank dialogue with countries from Africa, Asia, Latin America and the Gulf. Under the Italian presidency, the Ministers of Foreign Affairs reiterated the importance of upholding the existing legal framework, notably the Outer Space Treaty, and remain committed to fostering international cooperation, transparency and confidence-building measures to promote responsible behavior with the goal of improving space security for all states. To this aim, Italy has actively supported the open-ended working group on reducing space threats through norms, rules and principles of responsible behaviors. And we believe that the European Union space strategy for security and defense also helps building transparency and trust among states. Mr. Chair, Italy is committed not to conducting destructive direct ascent anti-satellite missiles tests as announced by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation following the adoption of the UN General Assembly Resolution 77/41 in December 22, which Italy co-sponsored. Through initiatives led by the Italian Space Agency, Italy also promotes international, regional and interregional cooperation. And this cooperation aims to establish strategic partnerships with other countries and space agencies to advance technological development and space research in accordance with international norms, including the Outer Space Treaty in its entirety. And in this regard, we wish to highlight in particular that Article 4 of the treaty addresses the prevention of the placement of nuclear weapons or any other kinds of weapons of mass destruction in outer space and promotes the use of outer space for peaceful purposes. We expect that all nations similarly strive to uphold these principles of international cooperation and space governance. In terms of cooperation, the Italian Space Agency has recently signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the Egyptian Space Agency aimed at strengthening cooperation in the space sector. Furthermore, Italy continues to consolidate its international relations in the space field with other strategic partners, including Japan, India, and the Republic of Korea, to name the most recent activities. Mr. Chair, Italy looks forward to the Summit of the Future and encourages all states to prepare for the summit in September, commending the work by Germany and Namibia as co-facilitators for the Pact of the Future. We also commend the work done by the Portugal Space Agency and UNOSA with the organization of the Management and Sustainability of Outer Space Activities Conference. As we endorse the Lisbon Space Declaration, Italy trusts that the upcoming efforts at the Summit of the Future and within the UN will reinforce effective multilateralism and consolidate the role of COPUOS. The consistent expansions of COPUOS memberships over the years serves as a strong testament to the global acknowledgement of its unparalleled functions, considering its inclusive approach, also to engage various stakeholders, including young people and civil society organizations. Mr. Chair, to conclude, Italy will always advocate for a safe and secure space environment and the peaceful use of outer space on an equitable basis. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank the distinguished representative of Italy for his statement, and then I move to the next speaker on my list and invite the distinguished representative of Japan. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Let me begin with my congratulations to you, Mr. Sharif Mohammed Siddiqui, on your election. My sincere gratitude also goes to Mr. Imran Sharif, the former chair, for his outstanding work. Chair, as space activities have diversified in recent years, Japan acknowledges the importance of upholding the rule of law and calls upon all states to consider ways and means to maintain the safety, sustainability, and stability of outer space. COPUOS can serve an essential role to this end. Japan believes COPUOS can also contribute to increasing transparency and confidence-building measures in outer space activities through its unique information-sharing platform. Chair, given the rapid evolution of the outer space environment, The LTS guidelines are increasingly becoming a relevant tool to tackle the proliferation of space debris, the increasing complexity of space operations, and the increasing risks of collision and interference that affect the sustainability of space activities. Space debris, in particular, is becoming an increasingly serious threat to our daily lives as our reliance on space assets grows. Japan retains a long history of research and development in space debris and reiterates the importance of a holistic approach to realize sustainable space activities. Active debris removal ADR is one of the solutions for debris remediation. The joint project of JAXA and ASOScale Japan, called CLD2, has been operating to demonstrate ADR technologies to achieve orbital debris remediation. To accelerate the discussion, Japan is considering submitting a non-paper reflecting our idea on space debris to this committee. In addition, Japan and the UN-USA are organizing a joint side event on space debris tomorrow at 1:00 p.m. We expect to see continuing discussions on this matter with member states. Japan further supports UNGL Resolution 77/41 and reiterates its commitment not to conduct destructive direct ascent and satellite missile testing, DASAT, and encourages others to follow suit. In order to further develop this initiative, Japan will continue working with member states to ensure the safety, security, sustainability, and stability of outer space. Chair, Japan has actively participated in various space cooperation projects. International cooperation promotes mutual understanding, enhances transparency, and builds confidence among nations. I wish to draw your attention to two activities in this regard. The first activity is the Kibo Cube program. This joint program between UN-USA and JAXA supports emerging space countries in deploying their CubeSats from the Japanese Kibo module of the ISS. Kibo, which means hope in Japanese, has so far helped 5 international teams from Kenya, Guatemala, Mauritius, Indonesia, and Moldova realize their hopes of successfully deploying their own CubeSats. The second activity is the Asia-Pacific Regional Space Agency Forum, APR South. As one of the Indo-Pacific countries, Japan has led this successful initiative for regional peaceful space cooperation for more than 30 years. The open framework of APR South enables a wide range of entities to participate in various programs under the forum. In this connection, the APR South Secretariat and the European Space Policy Institute, SP, are organizing a joint side event on the margin of this COPUOS titled Fourth Inter-Regional Space Policy Dialogue between Asia Pacific and Europe on Saturday, 22nd June at SP headquarters. All delegations are invited to attend this event, subject to prior online registration. Later this year, Australia and Japan will co-host the 30th sessions of APR South from November 26 to 29 in Perth. We invite all interested parties to participate in the meeting. Thank you for your attention.
I would like to thank the distinguished representative of Japan, and then I will move to the next speaker on my list, the distinguished representative of the Republic of Korea. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. When the Outer Space Treaty was signed in 1967, the international community was already aware of the potential impacts and benefits of space technologies for all states. Today, this potential has become a profound reality. Indeed, outer space was unlocked a new horizon of opportunities for humankind with space-based technologies and assets such as satellites driving sustainable development in all aspects. As such, any actions that hinder the peaceful use of outer space can have far-reaching, irreversible consequences of an unprecedented magnitude. In particular, a nuclear detonation in space would pose a serious threat to everyone's right to safe, secure, and sustainable uses of outer space, the very reason this committee was founded. In this regard, it is essential that all state parties reaffirm their existing obligations under the Outer Space Treaty. This includes the commitment not to place in orbit around the Earth any objects carrying nuclear weapons or any other kinds of weapons of mass destruction, to install such weapons on celestial bodies, or to station such weapons in outer space in any other manner. However, the Republic of Korea regrets that the draft Security Council resolution on weapons of mass destruction in outer space put forward by the United States and Japan could not be adopted due to a veto by a permanent member state. It is worth noting that 13 Council members, including the Republic of Korea, voted in favor of the resolution with the cross-regional support of 65 co-sponsors. Chair, the security landscape in outer space is becoming increasingly complex due to various challenges and threats. In this context, there is a genuine necessity to further develop rules, norms, and principles in the space domain in order to address all space threats. We firmly believe that progress in this committee, as well as in other relevant UN fora, can contribute to international cooperation in responsible, peaceful, and sustainable exploration and use of outer space. In particular, voluntary mechanisms proposed and established in this committee, including the space debris mitigation guidelines and guidelines for the long-term sustainability of outer space activities, have provided us with meaningful cornerstones for responsible space activities in the exploration and the peaceful use of outer space. The Republic of Korea would like to emphasize that this committee and its subcommittees are a unique platform for international cooperation in the exploration and use of outer space for peaceful purposes. They are essential for the global governance of outer space activities, consistent with international law for developing international space law. As we strive to keep the committee agile and relevant in the rapidly evolving nature of outer space, the Republic of Korea stands ready to work with other nations in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you for the distinguished representative of the Republic of Korea. Now I move to the next speaker on my list, the distinguished representative of France. Please, you have the floor.
Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs les délégués,
Chair, delegates, since we started our space program 60 years ago, France has always strived to provide free exploration of space in the interest of all peoples and in respect of international law. France believes that full implementation of the UN Charter, as well as the main treaties negotiated within the committee, is a prerequisite for maintaining the peaceful nature of the use of outer space. France would like to reiterate the essential importance it grants to the universalization of an improvement of space law, as this is the cornerstone for all member states. At the same time, space, safety and security are more than ever before priority and complementary objectives. We would like to recall that the peaceful use of outer space has to be free of rhetoric. Aggression has no place there. We need rules that are as transparent as possible, and discourse and actions must match. We invite member states of the committee to implement without delay the recommendations of the transparency report upon which agreement was reached in Geneva in 2013. This is a pillar of space, safety and security. the inherent duality of the space system means it's something well known, but also a permanent challenge. We have been working with challenge for more than 60 years. We have long-term confidence in the future with long-term and sustainable solutions for the benefit of all as the framework for our actions. That means that our committee has been able to adopt the 21 guidelines for long-term sustainability of outer space activities endorsed by the General Assembly. The peaceful use of outer space bears in mind the activities of other space states, leads to coordination, and the 21 guidelines give us a clear path and ambition. We must implement them and add to them when the time comes. Chair, strict respect for international law, especially space law, non-aggressive behaviour in accordance with the UN Charter, and a spirit of cooperation vis-à-vis the challenges of the future means that states and other space actors will benefit from space for years to come. That is how we see the peaceful use of outer space. We would like to recall that discussion on the draft resolution presented by the Russian Federation did not enable us to answer all the questions the text raises. Member states have to find answers to their questions on the text in general and the principle behind it and the legal basis for it. Thank you.
I would like to thank the distinguished delegate for France. And now I have the next speaker on my list, the distinguished representative of Colombia. And then we have one right of reply after the distinguished representative of Colombia. So please, you have the floor, distinguished representative of Colombia.
Señor Presidente.
Thank you, Chair. Colombia believes that COPUOS has an essential role with regards to increasing transparency and building confidence among states, as well as guaranteeing that outer space is only for peaceful purposes. We believe that international cooperation is a key pillar to support the mission of this committee, and we highlight the importance of the United Nations and its decisive role in outer space affairs and the use of outer space for peaceful purposes to guarantee development and equitable access to space without restrictions for all states. We believe that COPUOS should be up to date about the discussions in UN bodies such as Disarmament Conference, the Security Council and the General Assembly, so it can follow the necessary conversations for prevention given any risk or threat in outer space. We need to adopt measures to guarantee the long-term sustainability of outer space activities, as well as the need to commit to not placing weapons in outer space, nor do we want an arms race in outer space. Parties must provide collective security through a treaty on outer space, which means there will be no weapons located in outer space. We reiterate our co-sponsorship together with 65 other states on the draft resolution to oblige everyone to fulfill the space treaties, and we regret that this has not been the case so far. We need peaceful, safe and sustainable outer space to respond to immediate crises and emergencies such as extreme climate events and major disasters all over the world. We need voluntary measures and guidelines regarding transparency in outer space. This means we can preserve outer space for future generations, and it is an opportunity to rid ourselves of any threats to the peaceful nature of outer space. Transparency can be achieved through guidelines on space debris, for example. That means that outer space will be stable and safe for peaceful purposes, open to exploration and international cooperation in the future. Most countries do not have a developed space industry, but we feel that space should not be limited to only those nations. So policies and projects to reduce space risks should not cause problems to countries who are just embarking on their space journey now. The consensus on guidelines regarding long-term sustainability of outer space activities, which are technical and which include best practices, show that member states can work together to preserve space to the benefit of humanity. It was a very positive exercise and a necessary one based on international cooperation to foster transparency and confidence. Finally, we'd like to reiterate Colombia's commitment to maintaining outer space as being used only for peaceful purposes. And we have approved new laws with regards to space activities. Please allow me to conclude by expressing our interest in working on capacity building with the peaceful uses of outer space. And we believe in dialogue for cooperation for everyone's mutual benefit. Colombia is fostering education about the use of space, and we have space development courses to increase awareness in our schools in our country. Thank you.
The distinguished delegate of Colombia, and now I move to the right of reply. So I give the floor to the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation to exercise the right of reply. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, distinguished chair. I'm very sad to note that my colleagues didn't listen to my request to halt discussion of the topic of the draft resolution on the UN Security Council on the non-placement of WMDs, in particular nuclear weapons in outer space, as this document doesn't have to do with the mandate of UN COPUOS. Colleagues nonetheless seem to want to continue those debates, and so, as I promised, I will be forced to provide clarification on the matter. I would like to inform the committee that the entire backstory began with empty, unjustified attempts from the U.S. to allege that Russia had plans to develop and place in outer space nuclear weapons, just like the use of nuclear power sources on spacecraft for harmful action in outer space from satellite system of other states. This obviously was a poorly thought out and unsuccessful attempt to present the international community with Russia as a state who is not interested in preventing an arms race in outer space, and one that does not comply with its obligations under international legal instruments. Evidently, this is totally absurd, as was stated by the President of the Russian Federation and the Ministry of Defense, the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And I now repeat the words: the Russian Federation never has nor had any plans to place nuclear weapons in outer space. We are strongly committed to the provisions of the Outer Space Treaty of 1967, which is the cornerstone of international space law. I would remind colleagues that as per Article 4 of the Outer Space Treaty, there is a prohibition on the placement into orbit around Earth any objects carrying nuclear weapons or any other type of WMDs. To establish or place such type of weapons in outer space in any other manner. When Washington figured out that the prank was unsuccessful, a decision was taken to take another step, preparing a draft resolution for the UN Security Council, with partners from Japan. The document very obviously turned out to be absurd and imbalanced. So as to make it just a tiny bit reasonable, the Russian Federation, jointly with the Chinese People's Republic, proposed an amendment which would allow for the Security Council to send the international community a strong and unambiguous message regarding our strong intention to exclude in outer space as a place of arms raised, not just for nuclear weapons, but also for WMDs, and to retain it for peaceful purposes. I would like everyone to understand, and perhaps some haven't followed, I will put forth the Russian-Chinese proposal.
All states, and above all those with major space capabilities, to take urgent measures to prevent for all time the placement of weapons in outer space and the threat of use of force in outer space, from space against Earth and from Earth against objects in outer space, to seek, through negotiations, the early elaboration of appropriate, reliably verifiable, legally binding multilateral agreements.
This proposal was rejected by the sponsors of the draft resolution, again that is the US and Japan, after which the document was put to a vote and the Russian Federation was forced to veto it. I hope that this ends the discussion, but if our Western colleagues want to keep going with the discussion on the committee, I will, with most satisfaction, and will give more details about what was behind this all. Thank you.
I would like to thank the distinguished representative of the Russian Federation. And now we are moving to the last part of our meeting. So, distinguished delegates, I will shortly adjourn this meeting. Before doing so, I would like to inform delegates of our schedule of work for tomorrow morning. We will meet promptly at 10 a.m. We'll continue our consideration of Agenda Item 5, General Exchange of Views. We'll continue and hopefully conclude our consideration of Agenda Item 6, Ways and Means of Maintaining Outer Space for Peaceful Purposes. We will begin our consideration of Agenda Item 7, Report of Scientific and Technical Subcommittee on its 61st session. We will then suspend the plenary meeting so that the Working Group on the Long-Term Sustainability of Outer Space Activities can hold its first meeting. Following the adjournment of the Working Group meeting, we will then resume the plenary with the view to proceeding with technical presentation. We are expecting to have 6 technical presentations tomorrow at the end of the meetings. I would also like to inform delegates that tomorrow morning, Romania will hold the first informal consultation on the consultative mechanism on lunar activities from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. in room M3. Delegates are reminded that the full schedule of informal meetings is available on the session's website. Regarding side events, delegations are invited to a side event tomorrow morning hosted by the Saudi Space Agency entitled Saudi Towards Space, Igniting the Space Sector in the Mozart Room. This will be held from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. with breakfast, and all delegates are invited. Are there any questions or comments on this proposed schedule? I see no. Wishing you a nice afternoon, and this meeting is adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Thank you very much.